whenever we're talking about the price, the difficult thing is to try and stretch out the time frame. And I think ultimately that's what you're doing here, Andreas, right? You're saying, over the next, say, long time in Bitcoin, so let's say a year, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, people talk about a 10-year horizon for Bitcoin, which I think is ludicrous. I put an upper limit on Bitcoin of about 3 years. Pretty much everything important in Bitcoin is going to play out in the next 3 years. Over time, what I'm doing is I'm compressing that time frame. Right. So previously, I thought that a lot of the things that we would achieve in 2014, we have now achieved in 2013. And if we continue at this pace, the 3-year time frame is going to compress down to a year and a half or 2. And really, I think people need to reset their expectations and their perception of where Bitcoin is going and how fast it's going.
Where is Bitcoin going and how fast is it going there? Let's reset people's expectations. I feel like I'm pretty forward looking on this, Andreas, but I'm sitting here having this conversation with you and I feel like I should just be interviewing you rather than doing this as a host segment because you very clearly have it in your head where you think we're going. And I'm still more unclear on how long it takes us to get there. I agree, things are accelerating really fast, but I mean, what do you think we're going to see over the next, this 3-year time horizon you're talking about?
So I think we're in a unique position because of the work we do. We get a lot of people who come to talk to us about their startups well before even the planning stage and ask us for our opinion and ask for our help and technical advice. So we can see some of the things that are in the pipeline. And what I'm seeing is this completely new wave of companies that are coming in that are pushing adoption in 3 different ways. The first one is bringing in mature operational and management teams, a whole new spirit. So the age of PHP MySQL developers who throw together an application and try to build a global exchange on top of that era is truly over. People who are coming into this business now come with deep technological expertise, with deep management and operational expertise, and that's going to change the velocity of Bitcoin. The second one is that we're seeing the development of the developing world. And so we saw the shift in the center of gravity. And as more and more of the countries in the developing world come online, you get this simultaneous rush of new user adoption, which is going to push the price up. And at the same time, you get new developers, new companies, new startups that can now operate on a global level. So if you're in Argentina and you have Bitcoin, you can start behaving like a globalized mom and pop shop, a mom and pop multinational. And you can actually bring to bear the resources of the entire globe's financial capital, development experience, your own developers, cheap labor within your own country, and compete head to head with every other company in the Bitcoin ecosystem. That unleashes a torrent of innovation at the edges. And then the third part of this is this new wave of Bitcoin innovation that is basically shifting the focus from Bitcoin currency and enabling exchanges, payment networks, etc., sort of the peripheries of Bitcoin, enabling some of the on-ramps and speeding up adoption. And as that is playing out, now we're seeing the focus switch to the layers above, to implementing all of the other applications beyond currency that can be implemented. So digital shares and digital autonomous corporations, peer-to-peer lending, peer-to-peer crowdsourcing, peer-to-peer payments, remittances. These are the killer apps. Currency was just the first shot. So if we manage to put a pinprick into the remittance market, something that Alan Safahi of ZipZap is doing with a passion and a level of principle that I absolutely admire, put a pinprick into that, create a single little flow and watch the dam break as $500 billion of pent-up capital pour out of the developed worlds into fueling the developing world and uplifting poverty. Those kinds of things that bring with them the potential to huge global social change. Those are the applications that are being developed now. Things like Mastercoin and Colored Coins and NXT, the protocol layers above that enable not just new innovation, but entire new types of innovation and entire new industries to be decentralized and disrupted with Bitcoin. We've moved past payments, and all of that is going to happen in 2014, and I didn't expect it to happen this fast. We've been talking about the layers above, and now they're happening, and we can see this coming down the pipeline. So those 3 forces together are simply accelerating everything. The other thing to realize is the wave of adoption trails 3 to 4 months behind the media burst. So China wasn't the symptom of the $1,000, it was the cause. We haven't seen the symptom of $1,000 Bitcoin yet. We created this huge media bubble from $1,000 Bitcoin. Wait until February, because all of that is going to turn into user adoption. All of the people who heard about it in October and November and December are going to jump onto the bandwagon in January and February. And so these waves feed on each other. because that wave of adoption brings its own price increase, which creates the next media bubble, which 4 months down the line creates the next wave of adoption. And the cycle is getting shorter by the time. So what you have is all of these feedback loops that are rushing into Bitcoin. Because why? As you said, 1950s technology, and suddenly we have the opportunity to move 70 years forward, 60 years forward in terms of financial innovation, and to do it without permission at the edges of the network. And we've now reached a point where people are beginning to do that, and their efforts are not even visible yet. But when they become visible, whole different ballgame.
Talking about trends again for a second, at this conference, I think I met more people who are like from outside security consultancies or companies, full service, what have you, than really at any other previous conference. A lot of times it's been, kind of the libertarian side and then the investor side. But this time it really feels like the service industry is starting to come in and look seriously at this.
Yeah. Remittances are possibly just the first part. Then you have the whole outsourcing, offshoring, services talent that you can bring in. I mean, I think the big event in 2014 will be India. And when India wakes up, they have the parallel tracks of being the second largest remittances destination in the world, with billions of dollars going to India every year, and the largest outsourcing, offshoring center for technology in the world. And they haven't even woken up to Bitcoin yet.
Yeah, I was seeing a lot of the layers on top at this conference. I saw a lot of talk. People are excited about crypto equities, Mastercoin, ProtoShares, that kind of thing. And, there was some skepticism about those too, but it was being talked about a lot.
Cryptocurrencies, you don't have the ability to stop it, but then again, there's also not a central company backing it. But something like ProtoShares, Invictus Innovations is based out of Virginia. So, that's not a licensed, they're a corporation, but they haven't done any of the due diligence requirements to do any sort of equity offering in the way that ProtoShares could be interpreted under certain interpretations.
And I'm hearing from all of the companies that are not doing things like Mastercoin and Colored Coins, but are doing things on top of Mastercoin and Colored Coins, and are taking that platform and finding incredible new ideas of how to build layers above it that leverages that protocol layer. And that's going to fuel the development of the protocol layer even faster. It's going to be an exciting year.
Yeah, without a doubt, 2014 and 2015, that's been my feeling, is that these are the years. These are the years where the important stuff's going to happen. These are the years where we figure out if we stay in the United States. Because to a certain extent, we have risk doing a show like this in the United States. We have a corporation in California that, all of the costs run through and pay taxes and all that jazz and try to comply. But at a certain point, VC is obsolete. So you don't need to be here anymore if you've been in Bitcoin for a while.
No, absolutely. You can grow organically. And, I work as a technical advisor at a board level for a number of Bitcoin companies. And one of the first discussions I need to have with them is you do not need to raise capital. You do not need to give part of your control and equity away to a venture capital firm that doesn't understand what you're doing and just has money to throw at you, because you can both grow organically by riding the logarithmic dragon of Bitcoin. And if needed, and you need to float for a few months, you can crowdsource or find a couple of angel investors within the Bitcoin community, express the vision to them, and they will come and help you float long enough so that your viral, organically growing idea can take off on its own. And then you can get both the full control and freedom and the success that you need. So yeah, VCs are already obsolete in Bitcoin, apart from the fact that there are some people within the Bitcoin community who are in effect VCs and angels, and what they bring to the table, which is a really important thing, is expertise in operations within Bitcoin companies and in management of Bitcoin companies, because managing operations on a logarithmic scale is scary. The biggest issues that Bitcoin startups have today is that you can't do linear growth and you can't do local deployment. You are global from day one. And if you are successful, your growth curve is going to be 10, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1 million, 10 million, month after month after month. And you're going to die, not from starvation of funds, but from being so overwhelmed that you can't deliver on the operational promises and your users abandon you for someone else who can do operations better. Tony Galippi from BitPay was talking about scaling his organization from 15 or 20 people to 115 people over a period of just a few months. And, one of the biggest problems we're going to have, and possibly one of the most exciting opportunities in Bitcoin, will be sourcing resources, human resources. We need to hire hundreds of thousands of people into Bitcoin companies over the next year and train them in Bitcoin and leverage their skills. And it's now much broader than I just need a developer and a web designer. It's operations, it's marketing, it's security, it's business development, it's infrastructure, all of the traditional basics of a serious company. And we need all of them.
The development thing has been a problem, though. Talent is now starting to come into the space, but to this point, I mean, I know a lot of people who are doing startups who've had a lot of trouble finding developers who are actually able to deliver on what they need in a fashion. Having to teach people about Bitcoin has been, it seems like, a hurdle that these companies that are trying to hire developers have had to go through to this point. The cost of developing in the United States, again, we're based out of California, so the cost of hiring a developer, when we work with somebody down in Latin America, the cost is a quarter, if not less. Mm-hmm. And so that means that if you have a budget, you can hire 4 developers for the price of 1. That doesn't mean that developer in California is better. I mean, they might be better, but ultimately the cost is more based on the locality, and Bitcoin doesn't care about that. So again, this outsourcing thing, I mean, I just feel like, again, like the development teams that are really going to make a difference in this are going to come from outside simply because it's less expensive to actually pay them to do this full time. I mean, that's been a problem.
And that's why I think India is going to be critical in 2014, because the reason they're going to come on board is because the more of the talents we source from there, the more we infect them with the idea of Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. But here's another little point that people are missing right now. If you have a Bitcoin company and you're able to generate Bitcoin cash flow, as a result of that, you can offer effectively a stock option package for your employees, which is a really simple proposition. Take a part of your income, your weekly paycheck, and get it paid in Bitcoin and hold. And essentially, what you're doing is you're giving your employees stock options in the entire Bitcoin ecosystem by paying them in Bitcoin and creating a source of low cost dollar to Bitcoin exchange through payroll. Mm-hmm. So we can attract talent. And I think even in North America, we've now reached the point where you can have a serious conversation about people about what do you want to do with your life? Do you want to be part of the most exciting technological development of the last 2 decades? Something that will have a world impact? That are you willing to put in long hours for low pay and take a stock option in the form of Bitcoin and stock and equity in the company? And I think you're going to find a lot of people who are going to say yes, because a lot of people are beginning to see the difference between working for one of the old corporations that are fueling war and economic exploitation and being able to be part of something where they can align their principles with their skills and actually sleep at night and feel good about themselves instead of hating themselves every morning because they're working for the man. So you combine that with stock options in Bitcoin that have the possibility of appreciating, I think we won't have any trouble hiring talent. What we're going to see is Bitcoin sucking development talent from all of these e-commerce, Web 2.0, find another way to do shopping and push more ads, the boring jobs, and nobody want to work anymore.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
EasyDNS is the Swiss Army knife for your domain names, helping meet their customers' individual needs since 1998. EasyDNS has been an outspoken critic of SOPA and CISPA. EasyDNS was an early supporter of Bitcoin, and now they are proud to sponsor this show. Do business with a company that shares your values. Get a 13% discount when you pay with Bitcoin. Go to bitcoin.easydns.com and be sure to use discount code LTB.